We need to not be afraid of a work in progress. Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the Teacher's Brew. This is my daily reflection vlog. And I'm a huge fan of the word work in progress. I do use a hashtag with my class, work in progress. And I really push that narrative that we are always in a work in progress because we're always creating a better version of ourselves. We're always creating a better version of what we're working on in class. And that's just a part of my workshop method and the frame that I like to put it in for students. But over the last couple days, I have been working on recreating the workshop method for online learning. And really, honestly, it's not even that. For the general educator, for any educator, it's just about how do we do work time where students are doing and teachers are, that part of the class where we're walking around and we're seeing what kids are doing and we're interacting with them, we're asking them questions, and that whole part of learning where we have differentiation and there's all these really important aspects to education that happens during work time. And how do we recreate that experience in the online environment? That's the question that I've been working on and something that I am passionate about, at least right now with this new online deal. So going into yesterday, I pretty much had these options. I wrote them down. I could have the students work, and then I would check in with them like one at a time, call them out, whatever. I could have them leave and then have them come back for scheduled times like small groups. I could have them stay and then have them switch over for small groups. So have specific times where they'll come back to WebEx and our video chat and be a part of that. Or I could have them stay and work with the program in the background. So kind of switch over on their iPads from the video chat to whatever program they're working on, but keep that video chat on in the background so that they can come back and reference it or ask for help, things like that. What I kind of landed on was the last one that I just referenced, and I'm calling it like a hangout time. So we go from teaching time where I shut down the chat section so that students can't chat with each other, and I kind of intentionally change some of the settings to make it feel more like a core instruction. And I tell them that I'm doing that. This is not like a hidden behind the scenes thing. I say, hey, gonna shut down chat for the next 15 minutes so that we can really focus on learning, right? And I think that's natural, and I think it's important. How did hangout time go, and what did I learn? That's really where we're here for, right? I want to reflect on kind of how it went and start to kind of figure out what my next iteration of this is going to be. Some reflections that I have right off the bat is, first, having students broadcast their screen has been super helpful because then other kids can also look at that and check it out. I don't know about what program you're using, but with WebEx, you can put it on in the background. You can switch over to our coding program. You could switch over to Safari, where we have our three-dimensional design program. And they can work on that and still hear, almost all of the students can still hear what's going on in the WebEx, which is awesome. Unless they're playing some kind of audio, they can still hear what's going on in the background, which is fantastic. WebEx naturally shuts off their screen and mutes their audio, which is also really nice. So if they're listening to music or whatever, then that works out well for them. And they love that. I work with middle schoolers, and so having some autonomy and being able to say, if I have to do this at home, at least I can do it in a way that's a little more fun for me, like listening to music and stuff like that. But they're able to hear me, so when I call them back over, they can come back to the WebEx toward the end of class. So having them broadcast their screen was really, really helpful. I'm going to definitely start doing that more. Another thing that I felt like I nailed with a couple classes and not so much with others is really dismissing them by exit ticket. So when our district, basically the program that we're using, we want to always have students going on that learning platform every single day. And it's a really good way to mark attendance. It's a really good way to check participation, and it keeps them coming back to this program and it keeps that routine, which is really nice. So I have students do an exit ticket every single day on that learning program, and basically, if I don't dismiss them as they turn it in, then I end up having some students leave who didn't turn it in, and that doesn't make sense. And the funniest thing about it is yesterday I remembered, oh yeah, normal in the classroom, in-person learning, I have trouble with students leaving without doing the exit ticket sometimes. So if I don't have if I have to have a structure for how I make sure students do their exit tickets in class, I definitely have to have a structure for how they do exit tickets online, because they could just leave and by the click of a button and then not do the work. And then one final thing that I started to do yesterday that I think I'm going to start doing more and more is our learning platform allows for a media album. You could do this with Google Drive. You could just create a folder and then you could share it with your class if you're doing it in Google Classroom. And then that media album in Google Drive could be more than a media album, which is kind of nice, actually. Makes me think maybe I should do that. But the point of the media album is still the same. And it allows people to put photos or videos into an album, into a folder, and then that folder is visible by all of the students, which means we can go through them and we can check them out. And the nice thing about this is that it gives students a chance to celebrate their work, where normally if you're in a classroom, you can kind of show off what students are doing and kind of shout it out and tell the other class. But when you're online, it's all very private. We're all in our own little space working. So this is a really cool way that I had to do it for one of my classes. And then I was like, that was awesome. Kids loved it. They loved it. They got to show off their work. They loved that someone like the teacher was talking about the work that they completed. And so it turned out to be a really great thing that I think I want to do with all of my classes. Basically just having a time set up at the end of class where they want to come back because they're showing off their work, or I'm showing off their work. And then as we look through their work, we can kind of talk about and celebrate and that sort of thing, which is awesome. And I love it. Finally, I'm a huge, as a workshop teacher, one of my biggest things is portfolios, goal setting, reflections, journaling, right? That's a huge thing for me. I want students to leave my class every single quarter with something that they can hold on to, even if it's digital, that they can take with them and say, I did this. I learned about this, and this is evidence of what I learned. This is evidence of what I've accomplished. And I always tell my students, like, that's a smart way to go into a job interview anyways. If you go into a job interview and you say, I took this class, even if it was in middle school, I took this class and it really helped with my project management skills. And here are some photos and some evidences to prove that I really did learn and grow in project management. Who doesn't want to hire a kid who walks in and says, I'm really good at project management? That's an incredible skill set, and that's not a very normal thing to hear kids say. So what I'm thinking long term is eventually I'll do some kind of digital portfolio, probably through Google in some way, shape, or form. And the reason that I like to use Google is because it has that ability for me to see it. It's live, so anybody can see it as changes are made. If I wanted to do a group portfolio, then all 4 or 5 people have access to it at the same time, and it just works out really well. And then there's so many different ways to use Google products. So like Google Slides, for example, you could set up a slide into 4 spots, and then you could have a person put an evidence photo in each slot, and it just makes it more like teamwork, and then I'm able to comment on it, and there's just a lot of features that you have with there. Now, Apple has a lot of great products that you can do this with as well. However, at the middle school level, students, because of privacy laws, are not allowed to have Apple IDs. And so that changes what you're able to do as an educator in terms of being in a live communication with that product or with that portfolio. So long term, I do want to start focusing more and more on goal setting and journaling and reflecting, which is something that is just a huge part of my teaching style and what I emphasize as an educator in terms of character building as a part of the content that we learn. So my encouragement for myself today and my encouragement for you is to consider how you can have share time with students at the end of class that celebrates student progress. And remember, work in progress, that's important. It doesn't have to be a completed and finished product all the time. We want to celebrate the process of learning, not just the final thing. And then how can you incorporate portfolios and journaling and some of that stuff along the way? I hope you have a fantastic day of teaching, and get yourself some of this Pete's. Go get Pete's coffee. Pete's coffee is amazing.